It was said by someone famous that motherhood is the biggest gamble in the world. It is the glorious life force. It's huge and scary. It's an act of infinite optimism. So in other words, whether your pregnancy was planned or it was a surprise, your life will truly change. Today, in honor of Mother's Day, we here at the JIS would just like to salute all mothers and say thank you. Thank you for all the sacrifices that you've made to support and care for your children. You are truly special. Welcome to another edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Theodore Henry. Stay tuned as we take you through the pages for the next 30 minutes. Welcome to Get the Facts, and this is the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives and national development activities and interest. I'm your host, Theodore Henry. May 9 marks the celebration of Europe Day and the 46th anniversary of EU-Jamaica relations. Today, we will be looking at some of the programs and the projects funded by the EU and how these have made a difference in the lives of Jamaicans. Here with us for this discussion is Mr. Frederick Eckfeldt, Charge d'Affaires of the Delegation of the European Union of Jamaica. Sir Frederick, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
How are you doing today?
Excellent. I'm so pleased to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Let's get the facts. Today is a significant day for the countries of the European Union and Jamaica. You know, it represents a 46-year milestone of our partnership. And I was curious about what form that partnership takes. And if you could just give us a bit of a foundational understanding of that partnership.
Of course, but we should remember that the European Union of 2021 was not the one that we knew 46 years ago. It was a small organization,
yes,
very small, with very few member states. Today, it is an organization with 27 member states. At that time, less than 10. And it has evolved from being a purely economical cooperation organization to help the member states to have much more prosperous economies, to become a much more all-encompassing organization that is there to help member states where they're not able to find a solution at their national level. So it's a complementary efforts to the one done by the member states. And same thing, so when the European Union, at that time, European communities,
yes,
46 years ago, when we entered a relationship with Jamaica, it was, I would say, only a economic organization, and then that also had an ambition in development aid.
Wonderful, wonderful. So economic aid, developmental aid, and now we're celebrating 46 years of that. So give us an idea, what are some of the activities that will be done to celebrate this relationship and promote greater ties during this day?
Well, COVID times, unfortunately, we're all suffering from it.
Yes.
So the digital dimension, the virtual dimension is the key to success this year, as it was also last year. But we have tried in the past to have a multiple dimension toward the celebration. So it has always very often coincided with the European Film Festival also. So to celebrate European culture, to show the diversity to the Jamaican people, but at the same time also having different receptions for business people, for diplomats, for people of your government to celebrate, to also to show via the media what the European Union is and how keen we are to partner with Jamaica. So we've tried to have a large spectrum, but this year I'm afraid that we will have to do it only virtual.
Which is the cry that everybody has.
Yes,
only
I
virtual.
know.
Which leads me to my next question. You mentioned COVID-19 and
Yes.
the impact it's having on everybody. So what level of interest does Europe now have or is projecting to have towards Jamaica?
Well, COVID has meant a lot of, obliged us to rethink how we can partner with Jamaica.
Yes.
We are all confronting the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
We know that, and the European Union is a country, is an organization that adheres to what the WHO says,
Yes.
namely that it's only the day where everyone will be vaccinated that will that we will really be able to have to go to the next phase of opening up our societies. So this our partnership with Jamaica is exactly in that context, that we want to help Jamaica to get vaccinated as quickly as possible for those who want, notably by financing a big program that's called COVAX,
Yes.
which is Jamaica has benefited to a certain degree from, although other efforts will have to be made because COVAX is not a one-stop solution. But what we have done also, we managed last year to redirect funds in order to help the government of Jamaica to face COVID-19 challenges.
Yes.
So notably in the aspect of health. So it was extremely timely, I think, that 29 ventilators were delivered in April last year, just when the pandemic was rising.
And that sort of doubled our capacity here.
It did indeed, but then of course, but it should be said that it is not the European Union that came up with this idea.
Yes.
I would like to stress that what we do in terms of development aid is now mostly budget support. What is budget support? Budget support is your government do fantastic job in different areas, and then we say, this is very good. We would like to help you. Can we help you? So the government comes to tell us how we can assist, because they are the driving seat. And actually, so it was for the ventilators, it was very astute, clever people in your health sector that identified that this was a weakness before the pandemic struck. So it was very, very timely that they had come up with this. And we were so glad to be able to support Jamaica in that endeavor.
That is very, very interesting information. Hey, it's the program Get the Facts. So
Yeah.
we're getting the facts here. You mentioned COVAX. You have mentioned healthcare support and financial support. So that's in the areas of finance, in the areas of health. What other areas is the EU interested in partnering with Jamaica on?
We have funds where we can help Jamaica in different sectors, but we're not just giving money and say that do whatever you want with it.
Right.
It is you, that the Jamaican government, that is telling us, hey, we have now progressed in the area of justice, for instance, and we would like to do more. How can we partner more together? And then we see, and actually, since a lot was done in the right direction in the area of justice, the European Union has, for the past 5-6 years, partnered heavily with Jamaica with a lot of successes.
Yes.
For instance, the clearance rates of court cases. Jamaica is now at 96% of clearances for court cases, and that is above the 90% international threshold.
Oh.
And so I'm not saying that it's because of the European Union.
Well, the partnership.
But it's the partnership, and you being, Jamaica being in the driving seat and clearly showing this is what we want to do. Let us see how we can partner more.
Wonderful, wonderful. Ambassador, we're not done yet. We're not done yet. We're still getting the facts. So I just want you to prepare, after we go to this break, to prepare to dive in the details. You've mentioned justice. I know we're going to talk about poverty and also about gender. So we're going to go to that. So just hold on there. We're going to go to a break. So please, stay with us.
Is your facility approved for COVID-19 testing? The Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, through the JANAC Accreditation or Pre-Accreditation Approval Program, validates labs and point-of-care testing facilities such as medical centers. Accreditation safeguards the quality of test results and consumer well-being. Use a JANAC accredited or PAP approved facility for your tests, and let's defeat COVID-19 together. Contact the Jamaica National Agency for Accreditation, confirming competence, providing confidence in the marketplace.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. We've been discussing the EU-Jamaica relations, particularly where it comes to development assistance, as we celebrate today, May 9, the Europe Day. And, of course, 46 years of Jamaica relations, of EU-Jamaica relations. We've been having this discussion with Mr. Frederick Eckfeldt, the Charge d'Affaires of the delegation, I keep saying of, but the delegation of European Union to Jamaica. And the last time we were discussing justice,
Yes.
justice support. And I know that we have to talk about poverty reduction and a few other things, but could you just finish your point?
The installations, the capabilities, the training of the judges, training of clerical person has meant that the quality of the justice sector is at I would say at a very high level nowadays in Jamaica. Looking at where the justice sector now is in Jamaica, I would say that the prospect for Jamaica is very good to have trust from its citizens.
And I understand that the partnership has helped Jamaica's justice system function throughout the COVID crisis, because just because COVID is here, justice doesn't stop.
In fact, it was also very timely. The courts underwent a digitalization process just before COVID struck. Mm-hmm. And when COVID struck, the digital installations were there. So, in fact, this achievement of court clearance rate happened during the year of the pandemic, which shows that it was possible nowadays to have court hearings with digital tools, meaning that you could have people sitting on the other side of the island,
yes,
linking in, being here, heard, interacting, participating. So in fact, the court system never slowed down during COVID, thanks to this modernization, to which we contributed to a certain extent.
That is great. That is great. And you've kept saying timely, and I can't help but agree with you. Very timely. I'd like us to discuss the poverty reduction program.
Yes.
And the initiative, and how it benefits the communities. Now, in my reading leading up to this conversation that we're having, I came across indexes which are used to identify and grade the communities that are helped by the poverty reduction program.
The European Union, if you just take first step out from Jamaica, just look at the European Union, there's also a lot of solidarity within the European Union for the member states that are much less off than the more affluent ones.
Right.
So there is this whole concept of solidarity. In order to show solidarity, you must know where the money should go. And criteria, if you use criteria such as income level, the level of education, and the level of violence, and the single parenthood, etc. These are all criteria that are amalgamated and which enables the specialist to see where the proper allocation should go.
Right.
So these indexes are built on facts.
Yes.
You like facts.
Of course.
I like facts.
Yes.
And so facts are the ones that are steering the program, very much so for the whole efforts of the European Union.
What sort of intervention then takes place? Is it just financial assistance, or are there on-the-ground interventions?
The whole purpose is to have a long-standing effect, to ensure that people get vocational training, that single mothers can be alleviated in order to get some training. So the whole purpose is to empower people, and you don't do that by just handing out grants.
Yes, true. Understood. All right, so we've discussed so far, gotten quite a bit of facts about the health system, We discussed the ventilators, timely intervention, the partnership, and you reminded us and you taught us how the partnership works. Jamaica in the driver's seat, identifying issues. You just layered in the fact that it's data-driven.
Yep.
I think that's very important to our viewers, that these programs are data-driven. But
they're not just data-driven when they start, but they're data-driven throughout the whole implementation.
Yes.
Because there are different milestones whereby, together with the government, we check the achievements. How far have we gone? Can we do a little better, or are we already exceeding our expectations? So facts continue being used.
So a level of performance that you need to tick off and say, okay,
Exactly.
we've hit this. All right, so the EU has been, and it continues to provide help in the areas of gender equality and gender-based violence. This is something that has taken over the national mind quite recently.
Yes.
So could you give us some more information about how you help it?
It's a trilateral program, your government, the UN, and the European Union, called the Spotlight Initiative.
Yes.
And the Spotlight Initiative, so basically the UN is implementing together with your government different under programs in order to prevent gender-based violence, and we finance 20 million euros for 3-4 years, and already now the program is being implemented. It left the conceptual state and now it's being implemented in difficult neighborhoods,
Yes.
but also, so we target everything from toxic masculinity. We shelters, building shelter for women, help to women to come back to normal life, information campaigns in order to ordinary people get informed about what gender violence is really.
Give us some ideas on how your help in financial planning and assistance to Jamaica, how does that work?
What is needed in the Ministry of Finance in Jamaica is also needed in Ministry of Finance of Sweden, my own country, or other countries. Continuous training, especially in new areas. So yes, there is public finance management, how to adapt to more modern standards, to have better overview, to have accountability, and so this is kind of training that is co-financed by the European Union, but maybe implemented by a Jamaican trainer.
Yes.
So it's a facilitation of that. Today, what is visible is a partnership of equals, meaning that European Union recognizes that Jamaica is a full-fledged democracy, sharing the same values as we do, keen on multilateralism and reinforcement of the UN. And these are areas where we would like to work much more with Jamaica. So we really feel that Jamaica belongs to the democratic club, and we need to reinforce a relationship also in the political area and not just the economic and the financial area.
All right. This has been Get the Facts. Our guest was Mr. Frederick Eckfeldt, chargé d'affaires of the delegation of the European Union to Jamaica. For more information on the work of the European Union in Jamaica, visit eeas.europa.eu/delegations/Jamaica. And you should see that on your screen. Until next time, when Get the Facts brings you, as always, more important information. I'm Theodore Henry. Thank you for watching. The motherhood journey is a beautiful one, but it is also unpredictable because anything can happen at any time during the journey. Losing your child in the process is one of the outcomes that can arise. But how do parents deal with this? How do they cope? Who can they really turn to for help? Find out more next.
When I first found out I was pregnant in January 2020, I was excited, I was nervous, but I was looking forward to the experience. So much so that At first I didn't feel like I was pregnant, so I started getting used to the belly. Then the first Mother's Day came around and people were sending me messages and I said, no, not yet, just wait until after. However, in July, I had a seizure and then they had to perform an emergency surgery. This emergency surgery meant that the baby would become early and he would be premature. I had a son, his name was Ace Nevadra White. He stayed in the hospital for 49 days, exactly 49 days, before we got the call. And when we went to the hospital after receiving this call, we were told that his heart failed and they could not get him back, and then that's when we found out that he died in August. I was really looking forward to being a mother. This was something that I dreamt about as a child. I always wondered when it was going to happen. I had a diary that says by 25 I'm going to have my first child. 25 came and that didn't happen, and I was like, I guess it's 30. But it happened before 30 and I was happy. But then I guess the whole tragedy of it, and I'm still processing it to this day. August 2020, I'll never forget it. And because of that, I remember crying because I was waiting on them to say to me, he's coming back, he's coming back. On that day, it was the third time I held my son. And the third time was actually when he was dead. The hardest part really was having to go through the process of going to the parlor. I am afraid actually of hearse. I am afraid of anything to do with funeral homes, and having to have to go there, identify the body, and to know that this is the last time I'll be seeing the child that I prayed for so many years. It was very heartbreaking.
I think persons minimize the impact of a neonatal loss. Persons minimize the impact of miscarriages. They're saying, well, the fetus wasn't born, so did you really bond? Yes, they did. You bond from the beginning of the pregnancy. A baby died a few days or weeks after. Well, they never really lived long enough. Yes, they did. I think the community needs to understand that a loss is a loss. The meaning of the loss, the meaning of a neonatal loss to a parent, to a mom, and don't forget the fathers. Sometimes I find we forget the fathers grieve neonatal losses, miscarriages, etc. They do grieve as well. We grieve differently, but they do grieve. The other aspect about neonatal losses, the grieving of it tends to be futuristic. We continue to grieve it in the future because there are times when the mom will say, she would have been 3 years today. Should have taken the PEP. Should have gone to high school. So it goes on into the future. It's not just a loss that has gone and I move on. It's there and the triggers will be there.
What people don't understand is me crying is my way of dealing with it. My way of letting out my emotions, because sometimes I cannot explain exactly how I'm feeling. So I have to cry. So person saying to me, oh, it's your first child, you can go again, you know now that you can actually have a child, just try again. Tom or Jane did lose their first child and them have 3 kids now, so they can do it. Those type of things hurt me because I don't know if that's going to be my only child. I don't know if I'll have kids again. All I have right now is just the memories to say, I had a child, I named this child, I have birth certificate to show for this child, but I also have a death certificate to remind me that this child is no longer here.
We never forget a loss. We don't get over a loss. We learn to live with the loss. And so the pain, the grief pain is still there, but over a period of time you start to accommodate the pain with hope. the pain with love. So the pain is still there. It may not be as intense as in that grief acute phase, but it is still there. And then there are going to be triggers along the way that will reawaken the grief. There are times when persons will say, I just want to be left alone. I just want to grieve the entire day. My response is, if that is what they want to do, allow them to do so. I find though that sometimes we impose our experiences, our perspectives, our beliefs on the grieving mother and say, come on, you need to get over this now. You have been doing this for too long. And so I think we really need to work with the timing of the bereaved person. We need to ask them, are you ready to get back in there? Are you ready to, how are you feeling? Where are you at this point in terms of just emotionally and mentally?
Before, I couldn't pass the Spanish Town Hospital. Passing the hospital would give me anxiety. Going to the hospital, thinking about it would give me anxiety. But now I believe I'm in a better space. I can go to the hospital, yes, but I will not go to the maternity ward. I cannot bring myself yet to cross the gates for the maternity ward. I am now able to look at his clothes, smell his clothes, and not be depressed about it. I've find myself in a position where no longer hearing that someone else is pregnant doesn't make me cry. No longer hearing that someone else is pregnant doesn't make me say, I wish it was me. I've now been able to gradually take myself out of that spot. There's nothing I can say to you that will make you feel better. But what I can tell you based on experience is cry if you need to cry. Find somebody who you can talk to. Someone who won't judge you or who won't make your loss feel insignificant. Make time for yourself. You need to get into this space where you can process. So if you have a diary, you need to write down your emotions, write down what you're feeling, because there's not every time that you'll be able to vocalize how you're feeling. So that's really it. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen next week. It may take years. You will never forget this child. As for me, I still wonder what he'd be doing right now. He'd probably be walking. He'd probably have teeth. He'd probably be eating. He'd probably always making a mess. I'll never get to experience that with my first child. So that's something you will never forget. So keep your memories.
This is where the magazine ends for today, but if you would like to see more content like this, then visit our YouTube page. We also have all the latest news and updates on our social media pages and our website, which you can find at jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.